So as it turns out, there's a pretty big difference between the East and the West. I know, not really that big of a shocker. Different cultures, different gaming. And while we do love a lot of the Japanese exports, Mario springs to mind, although he's surprisingly Italian. A lot of games are not released here. That's why today gameranx brings you the top 10 Japanese games that will never be released in the West. Number 10, Rockman Strategy. Now, Rockman is Mega Man. If you don't know that, now you do. Yay! Rockman Strategy plays a whole lot like Fire Emblem and looks, kind of like a weird looking Mega Man. And it's got all that fantastic Mega Man music while giving you the JRPG style combat. Well, not you, because you're not in, Asia, but the player plays it like a JRPG. Being that Mega Man, for whatever reason, isn't a particularly active brand, which is, might I add, not intelligent, who doesn't love Mega Man, and given that it is nothing like any other Mega Man game, probably just never gonna see it. I know, it sucks. Number 9, Densha De Go. It's actually a train simulator franchise from Japan, where you essentially are the conductor on one-to-one replications of the train lines in Tokyo, Osaka, and a few other Japanese cities. It took a lot of research to make because it is like 100% accurate. It's also incredibly strict. You get points for arriving half a second from the scheduled time, as in you have about a second window to get points. Now, being there really hasn't been any interest over here, the developers, which include Taito, Square Enix, and Ongakukan, aren't really that keen on porting it over here because there's very little interest. In fact, there's not really a heck of a lot of interest in the original market, as they're gradually sort of winding the series down. The most recent one is actually called Densha De Go Final, implying there will be no more. Not that in video games that really means anything, but that's the idea. Number 8, SD Gundam G Generation Series. Now, fans of Mobile Suit Gundam, the anime that's been going for about 3.5 decades, it kind of really sucks for them, because there have been more than 80 of these games released, and a couple of them, yes, have made it to the United States and Europe, but one that people particularly think is a great game, well, people who have played it anyway, is SD Gundam G Generation 3D, which, by the way, is quite a mouthful. It's a 3DS game that plays a lot like Super Robot Wars, with a squad system and the ability to evolve Gundam suits. It has pretty complex development trees, and a pretty heavy emphasis on tactics and statistics. Now, being most RPG-style games, or even related games, are moving towards action as far as even Japanese games, but mostly Western games, especially given the fact that the biggest market is the Western market, it's just not a game that they saw financially viable to move over here. And ultimately, that's basically the reason why anything doesn't get ported here. Number 7, Jump Superstars. Okay, so if you like Super Smash Bros., and you're also somehow a fan of the Shonen Manga Digest magazine Weekly Shonen Jump, then this game is literally the perfect game for you. I mean, that's a pretty niche group of people, but it's there. I'm sure there's somebody in the Western market that would probably go, yes, I am actually a fan of both of those things. So basically, platform-based battle arenas with shonen manga characters. There's actually 27 series that it pulls from, including some big hits that you're familiar with, like Naruto, Dragon Ball, Bleach, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and it's a 2 to 4 player Smash Brothers game with characters from that stuff. I mean, here's the thing, if you just go by those franchises, you're probably like, yeah, I would probably like to play that. But like I said, there's 27 different series. The licensing for that game would just be impossible. Number 6, Tingles Balloon Fight. So people love Wind Waker, right? I love Wind Waker. It's probably my favorite out of all of them, including Skyward Sword. And Skyward Sword is very good, but Wind Waker is amazing. Now, a little bit more niche, Tingle. A lot of people in the United States don't really like the guy, but in Japan, he's like SpongeBob. Well, maybe not like SpongeBob, but he's pretty well known and liked. So there's actually quite a few Tingle games, Balloon Fight being probably the most prominent of them. And the reason you'll probably never see it in the United States is because, like I said a moment ago, US gamers tend to just fucking hate that guy. I mean, he is fairly annoying, but at least he's not like just a floating glow thing that goes, aha! Well, he's kind of like that. Given that it would probably not sell that great here due to there not even really being a cult following for Tingle, don't count on balloon fighting with the guy anytime soon. Number 5, Monster Hunter Frontier G. So Monster Hunter has actually become pretty popular in Western markets. Lots of people are playing it, and really it's a lot of fun. It's tough as shit, but it's fun. And you'd think that that might actually give some incentive to port the MMO version of it coming over here soon, but it's probably not gonna happen. People aren't really digging subscription-based MMOs anymore. What with free-to-play, which, by the way, isn't free-to-play great, where you end up paying for it anyway? Yeah. That being said, Capcom apparently does work on stuff regarding a sequel to this game, but being that's the case, and they've given no indication that they want to port the sequel over to Western markets either, we're probably not gonna see it. Number 4, Phantasy Star Online 2. So Sega is kind of one of the weirdest companies in gaming. They know that their Western fans want to play Phantasy Star Online 2. They're well aware of it. They've even teased their Western fans with the possibility of it happening at the Penny Arcade Expo. So it's not like been behind closed doors. The original Phantasy Star Online was a Dreamcast classic and lasted like 5 minutes, but it was there. And the series goes all the way back to 1987 and is really like Sega's kind of answer to Final Fantasy. And true to form, it's truly a very, very interesting version of a JRPG. And that continued all the way to Phantasy Star Online, which was a weird game as well. Good weird, not bad weird. I don't know what Phantasy Star Online 2 plays like. You have to download and install it, and then get a fan-created localization patch, which, let's be honest, that means it's probably complex to do. And then you have to violate the game's terms of service anyway and play on the Japanese servers, which means you can get kicked off at literally any time if they figure out you're not from Japan. Sega does this with a lot of stuff. They need to start listening to the Western fans. They wonder why people don't buy Sega stuff anymore. They don't put stuff out that people want to buy, at least not where people want to buy it. Like, Sega is massive nostalgia for a lot of people, and they probably could start making a lot better money if they would start cashing in on it. But hey, that's me. I mean, what do I know? I haven't failed at Sega for a decade, so don't listen. Number 3, Big Bang Pro Wrestling. In the year 2000 on the Neo Geo Pocket Color, Big Bang Pro Wrestling was the last game SNK created. Well, when they were basically their own company. They were bought out by Playmore and have done things since, but as a sovereign state, SNK, this was it. It's basically a classic style 2D wrestling game, 10 fighters, but has a grappling system that is super skill intensive. If you pay attention, it's extremely timing and reaction oriented. Kind of reminds you of WWF, which I don't mean World Wildlife Foundation, I mean WWE in the 90s, way back when. And it's probably never gonna get ported here because first, the Neo Geo Pocket Color never did very well. Second, the timing for this game's release is just beyond bad. It never really garnered much of a following. Believe it or not, it did actually have a full English localization, but I mean, nobody knows about it, and nobody really, and the people that do aren't really demanding it because they haven't played it and don't know if it's that great anyway. Actually, a lot of games that aren't brought over here are due to that exact same situation. Just a big compounding of negative factors. Number 2, Valkyria Chronicles 3. The fantasy World War II setting in the Valkyria Chronicles games is one of the sort of unique aspects of it. People loved the original on the PlayStation 3, and then for whatever reason, and here we go with Sega again, they decided the sequel should be on the PlayStation Portable, which, I mean, at no point did anybody in the United States care about. Don't get me wrong, the PSP and the PS Vita are great systems, but for whatever reason, we don't care about it here. We love the 3DS, but we don't love the thing with all the great JRPGs on it. Alright, cool. Anyway, it didn't do that well on the PSP, especially internationally, and they decided not to bother with the English localization on number 3, which sucks, because people loved the first game, and the people who played the second game loved it as well. It's a shame that Sega is Sega, because when they're on their game, they develop the best games, but they are not consistent, and their business people are the dumbest out there, frankly. And this is coming from somebody who does love Sega. Finally, number 1, Metal Wolf Chaos. Now this is weird because it's an Xbox game that came out only in Japan. Being the original Xbox was not that popular there, this game didn't really get that popular there either. You play as the President of the United States, and there's full English voice acting. So it sounds like it might be a little bit normal at this point, but the Vice President actually executes a coup and attempts to take over. So the President gets into a large mech suit and proceeds to destroy anyone and everything while yelling at the top of his lungs things like, "Suck on my missile," which maybe at the time sounded like a great idea, but the more you think about it, the dumber it sounds. Now, this was 2004 when, let's be frank, blowing up buildings and stuff was not that well liked here in the United States. I don't know if it is now, but it was really not well liked at that point. And Microsoft probably didn't want to bring the game over based on that. Although from the sounds of it, it seems like it would possibly be one of the most enjoyably stupid games to play out there. And it's a shame that I never will. Have you ever imported any of these games or know more about them? Or are you aware of a game that just isn't coming over here ever that you really liked? Let's talk about it in the comments, and while you're at it, please click the like button because it helps us a ton. If you're not subscribed to gameranx, now's a great time because we upload brand spanking new videos every single day of the week, and the best way to see them first is of course a subscription. As always, thank you very much for watching this video. We will see you next time right here on gameranx.